Hi, BERNINA Jeff here. Today I'm going to talk about pulling that old machine out of the closet to sew a face mask or Halloween costume, how to properly thread it, basic threading, filling the bobbin, putting the bobbin in correctly, and testing to make sure everything's good. So first off, let's make sure the machine is freed up. We're going to take the machine out, make sure your thread and your bobbin case is out and off your machine. And we're going to turn the hand wheel by hand to make sure that it's free. It should turn very easily and not be real stiff. If that's the case, it's nice and free. Plug it in and give it some power, and it should turn over and rotate easily. At this point, we probably can sew with this machine. If it is squeaking, making some racket, then you're going to need to take it apart and oil it or see a technician on that. Next, let's go ahead and work from the bottom up. We're going to fill a bobbin, put it into the bobbin case, and work from there. So, make sure you have the proper bobbin for your machine. Just because it's with your machine doesn't mean it's the right bobbin. So make sure it fits in the bobbin case correctly. Next, we're going to put the thread on. And there's two threading paths on most machines. One threading path is marked with dotted lines for the bobbin filling. The other path is marked solid for sewing. So we're going to do the bobbin filling first. So we're going to go to the dotted path. And the big mistake I see on most people threading the machine for sewing is they use this little extra tension button when they're actually sewing for the sewing part. This tension button is only for filling a bobbin. And it has to go in kind of a Z or an S pattern so it stays inside that little tension button. Now we're going to take the end of our thread, push it from the inside out on a bobbin through one of the holes. Pull out about 8 or 10 inches of thread and slide it onto the bobbin filling post. Then this post, most of them will pop one side or the other. So we're going to slide that over to the right. And then before we start filling, we're going to undo this clutch. So hold the inside and unscrew the outside. This is a braking system that will release the needle from going up and down when we fill the bobbin. Now hold that thread from the bobbin about 6 inches above the bobbin and give it some power with the foot control. Fill a couple layers and then trim off that thread as close to the bobbin as possible. And then continue filling up. When we have enough thread on the bobbin, we can go ahead and pop that over and trim our thread. And then remember to tighten up your thread clutch. Now I'm going to undo my thread and use a different color thread on top because that other one's out behind. And just put that on there for now. We're going to show how to put the bobbin in the bobbin holder correctly. So this is a central bobbin system. It goes underneath. The drop-in bobbins are very similar. So you want to hold your bobbin with the top thread going off to the right. Look at your bobbin case and insert the bobbin in the bobbin case. Kind of hold it with your thumb, slide it down the slot underneath this flat spring. It'll kind of click in, and when you pull on the thread, the bobbin must turn clockwise. If it doesn't, flip it around and do it properly because it should have enough tension to turn clockwise and hold it up. I have another video if this tension isn't right on how to correct this tension. Now this bobbin case goes in with this finger pointing up, and you need to hear it snap into place. I do not hold on to the latch. Line it up and it will snap into place. Okay, our lower bobbin area is properly inserted. Now, we're going to thread the top. The biggest problem I ever see when people are threading the top is they forget to lift up the presser foot. The presser foot must be in the upper position to accept the thread. And I'll show you this with a little demonstration. Inside your machine, there are two tension discs with the spring. And when the presser foot is down, they are clamped together to create upper tension. When you raise your presser foot, it opens up the discs so the thread can clamp in there. And when you lower it, this will allow the tension disc to grab the thread and thread properly. If you thread this with the foot down, that thread lays on top of these discs like this, and you get a big wad of thread underneath. It only happens on the underside of your project. You think it's the bobbin, but it's because of the tension on top. So remember to lift up your presser foot to make that thread go in. So our presser foot is up. I'm looking on my threading diagram here, so I go through that guide. I go through number 2. Number 3, I go down and around. And sometimes this take-up lever isn't in the right place, so rotate it toward you. Always rotate your hand wheel towards you and find that take-up lever, and there's either an eye or a slot it fits in. Now we're coming down, and there's usually a guide down by the needle. Now, at this point, the presser foot is up. You should be able to pull smoothly, and that thread will come out very easily. Now test it by lowering the presser foot, and that pressure should increase to where it'll almost not quite break the thread, but you'll feel a lot of tension. Now I will leave the presser foot down to thread the needle, and a good tip on trimming the thread to thread the needle is cut it at a big angle. So cut it like a French green bean. And now, if I had good eyes and good light, you can thread that needle. And I'm going to attempt this a couple times. And I pull my thread off to the left. I lift up my presser foot. And now I'm holding the thread to the back with my left hand. With my right hand, I'm turning the hand wheel toward me, down and up. And you want to bring up this lower thread. And if everything's correct, that lower thread will come up on the first or second try. Slide both of those threads through the slot of the foot and put them to the back of your machine. Now we're going to test sew. I usually test sew on an easiest stitch, which is a straight stitch. So I'm going to test on a straight stitch. Put your fabric underneath there with just a little test. Remember to lower the foot. If you do not lower the foot and try to sew, it'll just be a mess. Now that sounded and looked good. Now I'm going to turn the machine to a zigzag, a nice wide zigzag, and test zigzag. And if I put it in reverse, we're testing that too. Now to remove your project, rotate your hand wheel until you see this take-up lever at the very top of its stroke. That take-up lever has to be at the top, otherwise your project won't release well. So I'm taking it out, and there's my stitches. So I know that from the tension and everything else looks good. This machine will sew, it'll do your mask, it'll sew through elastic, make that Halloween costume, and you should have good results. So remember to subscribe to my channel. It's BERNINA Jeff, and happy sewing. Thanks.